Aniedi is quite a new member to the church. Him and his wife Bertha have just become vision partners. You'll probably see him smashing it out on the drums or singing his heart out on worship on a Sunday morning. Aniedi, could you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Well, my name is Aniedi Williams, and I'm married to Bertha. We've married 5 years now. We'll be 6 in a few months' time. And we've got a little daughter, Caris, and she's a joy to be with and live with.
That's great. So, how did you come to meet Jesus?
Well, I've had a relatively a solid background, you would say, because my dad is a pastor, and so I grew up in a Christian home, often moving from one parish to the other, and I live in the parish house. So, I've always kind of known about God, and there's always expectation around me as well to behave well.
It's got to be tough being a pastor's kid, hasn't it? There's always so many more expectations on you.
I didn't find that very tough. I blended in very well. I always have to behave well. But as I grew up, it was as though I've missed something. I couldn't know what other children were doing. I couldn't stay out late. So I was always having to come back on time. And because people are looking at me, what's a pastor's kid going to do? So that was the bit where I not as though I found it tough, but I was looking for that opportunity where I'm going to have to get away from home and do what other children or young people do.
And I bet you got out of the first opportunity you could.
But then when it was time for university, I purposely chose a school that was far away from home, so I had to go and live there. My dad did try to stop me, but it was advised to allow me go and study engineering, which is what I wanted to do. So I went. But surprisingly, before I could get the time to do what other young people would do and partying and all those kind of things, that was when I actually met Jesus. Right. In 2000, I attended a Reinhard Bonnke, crusade.
Oh, wow.
And I was called out, and I responded to the call, and, everything changed then.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. So we know what your life was like meeting Jesus about 22 years ago now, and that's you sort of coming into the workplace. But how does your relationship with Jesus affect your frontline job now?
In one of my first jobs, working for the oil and gas, and it was a very busy period of my life, and I wasn't able to attend church I would normally do and fellowship with the brethren. So what I learned as a Christian took me through for a while, but I got to a point where I began speaking the language of the people at work, and I was a bit wobbly in my faith a bit, and I couldn't help it except I left the job. So that became a target for me. That I was telling God, I really want to serve you, but I'm struggling here. So what I want to do is to leave this job and get another job, and then start on a plain new ground. And this is what the boundaries I'm going to set going forward. Yeah. And God helped me to do that. And I got another job and resigned and left. And that was really a blessing. Yeah. So and that gave me a time then to be able to make sure I have time for work and also time for family and time for fellowship, because I think it's key. I maintain contact with brethren and fellowship as well with the church. I understand that as a Christian I'm a messenger, taking the gospel out there. So from time I see myself as, if you like, a preacher in the marketplace, and I've been trying to see the best ways to do that. How to be creative around discussing the gospel in a secular environment. So what I try to do, I am a very likable person at work. So I've worked in many organizations, and I find I'm very likable. People like to talk to me and so on. So I kind of try to take advantage of that and allow them to like me, and then I would have that opportunity to present the gospel in a very creative and diplomatic way without it sounding as though I'm preaching. Yeah. For instance, we were discussing with my colleague recently about my boss and what I have to do to please my boss and so on. And I said, wait a minute. I am a Christian, and as a Christian, I do everything, including this job, as a service unto God. Yeah. So if I can do that to please God, then certainly my boss will be pleased. So I'm not going to focus on my boss. I'm focusing on God. And he was so, amazed by that. I wanted to hear more, and that gave me the opportunity to, talk more about, what Christians do and what we're all about, to him as well.
You sound like a boss's dream, to be honest.
Well, I try.
Well, listen, Aniedi, thank you so much for talking to us today. We really appreciate it. It's been great to get to know you a little bit better.
Thanks very much for having me. Thank you.
There we go. That wasn't too painful, was it?
Well, brilliant.